Okay, so welcome to Master Your Time, Master Your Life. I'm Coach Caro Melnick, a life coach and NLP practitioner from Picture Your Purpose. And I have a particular passion for time management. And the reason why is because for 30 odd years, I was a conference and events manager, and it's an absolutely ruthless industry when it comes to time, because that event and that conference is going to happen at that date and that time. You never change the date and the time for an event. And you just have to make sure that you keep up with what needs to be done and you don't miss deadlines. Because if you do, then it has some serious ramifications. So I landed up having burnouts, working day and night, etc. And I looked at some other people and I saw they seemed to have everything, all their ducks in a row and so organized. What am I doing wrong? So I had a call one day with a coach who said to me, Caro, what is your biggest challenge in life right now? And I said to him, you know what? I just don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do what I want to. I mean, it landed up that I wasn't going to any social functions with my friends or anything because I felt I couldn't commit. You know, if there was a deadline I was working on, I had to actually give focus to my work. I missed many milestones with my children when they grew up. So he said to me, but time's not actually the problem, because everybody has the same amount of time. It's what you're doing with the time that's a problem. And that really made me think, you know, that there was actually something I could do about it. So I could change things and make myself feel more in control and less stressed about the time. And that's when I put in a lot of research and studies and went to go back to the drawing board to see, how can you do things? How can I make more time in my day and learn to cope with my stress better? So what I'm doing tonight is just giving you a quick overview. I mean, this is something that takes time to work through. So it's not a quick fix. And it's something that's going to, if you work on it consistently, it will start making a difference in your life. But the one thing and the first step you need to do is acknowledge, yes, I have a problem with how I'm managing what I'm doing with my time, to make a decision that you actually want to make a change, because it is going to take change to be able to manage your time and manage what you're doing with your time properly, and then to consistently put in the efforts and try the tools and techniques that have been tested by other people and that actually do work. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to time management? So if you'd like to share with us what your biggest challenge is, Nancy, Sharon, Sarah. I know my biggest time challenge is that I've had in the past is that I would, instead of controlling what I was doing with my day, I would let my day control me. So I would respond too much to external factors rather than sticking to my priorities list. And we're going to go and have a look at how we can change that kind of behavior. Anyway, if you want to, you can pop your challenge in the chat box, and then we can have a look at the end and see if, you know, one of the bits of information and the tools that we've discussed has helped you to overcome your biggest challenge. Right, so what we're going to cover, we're going to have a look at why time management is important, how prioritization can actually help you, setting boundaries, practical time management tools, creating a balanced schedule, boosting productivity while reducing stress at the same time, creating lasting change, and then I'm going to talk to you about my time mastery blueprint. Okay, so let's first think and talk about the importance of time management. I love this quote by Stephen Covey. He says, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. So think about that again. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. So what I was doing, and I can only talk from my personal experience, and I'm sure that some of you did as well, is you look at your big to-do list, and then you schedule all your things on your to-do list into your schedule, and you realize, oh my word, there's not enough time to get all of this done. And then it's major like panic stations, maybe an anxiety attack. And then it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what I do. I'm just not going to get everything done. What you should be doing is looking at your to-do list and seeing, okay, what are my priorities? Schedule those in, what's left, and then figure out how those get done. Because sometimes you can ask for help. Sometimes there's better ways of doing the things. So I love this quote. Okay, so managing your time well helps you to reduce stress, boost your productivity, and it frees up your time for what truly matters in life. And some practical insight, and this is what hit me hard, that time is actually a non-renewable resource. So once it's gone, it is gone. Like really, there's nothing that you can do to recover it. You can't create more time. A lot of people say, oh, I wish I had more time in the day. You actually physically, there's nothing you can do to create more time. And it's the one resource that every single person on this planet has in equal measure. So if you look at someone who's doing the same job as you or who has a similar role in life that you have, and they seem to have everything organized and don't have huge stress and, everything just works, they meet the deadlines and everything, then have a look and see what are they doing that I'm not doing? Because maybe they've got some time management technique that they're using that's helping them to cope with what's on their plate. Also, don't just fill your day with a whole lot of things. It's not about, some people think that it's actually a status symbol to be very busy, or a feather in your cap. It's not about that at all. You want to fill your time in your day with things that have meaning. Okay. So the first thing that helps with time management is prioritization, because in life today, everything is always busy, right? There's a lot of things going on, especially with technology, with access to information. There is a lot more going on in life than there was 20 years ago. That's a fact. So the secret to effective time management is not doing more, but it's doing what matters the most. And the way that you can get to do that is by learning effective prioritization. So how do you do this? Here's an activity that you can do, something quick and simple that's going to help you. Jot down your top 3 tasks for tomorrow, the most important things that are going to make a difference in your day tomorrow. Ask yourself, which of those 3 will have the biggest impact on my life or work? And begin with that one. That should be your top priority for the day. The rest can, so you can sort the rest of the things that need to be done in priority. Some things, if it doesn't get done tomorrow, that's okay. It can be done maybe next week. But there are things that will need to be done tomorrow that if they aren't done tomorrow, it's going to have serious ramifications. So identify those top three, figure out which one of those three is the most important, start with that one, go on to the next one, and then go on to the next one. And this is going to help you get a lot of clarity. So the Eisenhower matrix is also a very useful tool to use when it comes to figuring out what your priorities are. And it also helps you to figure out how you're spending your time. So what you do is you take a piece of paper, you draw, 4 quadrants, and you have an urgent and important quadrant on the top left. The second quadrant, which is top right, is urgent but not important. Your third on the bottom left is important but not urgent. Sorry, the second one, don't get that wrong, the highlighted one. The third one is urgent but not important. And the fourth one is neither urgent nor important. So the way that you do this is you take your general, tasks that you're normally responsible for, and you look at what is on your to-do list, and then you divide them into these 4 quadrants. If you're spending like most of your tasks that you've got to do are sitting in quadrant 1, where they're urgent and important, which means that you're running under pressure. Those tasks are driving you, that if you don't do them, something bad is going to happen. If you've got a lot of tasks in that quadrant, that means that you're definitely not managing your time right, and that you're running behind schedule, because had you tackled those tasks maybe a few days ago, they wouldn't be sitting there. They would be sitting in quadrant 2, which is important but not urgent. So the moral of the story is you should be reorganizing and managing your time so that the majority of your tasks sit in quadrant 2. So they're important but not urgent. Simple example is you have a project that is due in 2 weeks' time. Okay. What do you do with that project? You know it's due in 2 weeks' time. Do you start today and start working on it systematically every day, and then aim to have it done, say, a day or 2 early, so that if there are a few tweaks and stuff that you can make, you've got that buffer of time? Do you work like that? Or do you leave it because I can do this in 1 day? Do you leave it for the day before? And then suddenly on the day, it's become so urgent that it has to be in that day and you're not finished, and that all your other tasks have to be put aside to finish that one thing. So start to recognize the patterns of behavior, because if you are tackling that project now, even though it's due in 2 weeks, working out a systematic plan to get that project done, and you then work the plan, you're working in quadrant 2. It is important, but it's not urgent because it's only due in 2 weeks. But if you have a habit of leaving it until the day or 2 days before, then you start working on it because you think, I can get this done. And suddenly that task moves to quadrant 1, which is urgent and important, and is all consuming for those 2 days. If you normally operate like that, you really need to start re-looking at how you're managing time. And that is a typical procrastination trend. So, if that is how you're behaving now, a lot of people think that they work well under pressure and they leave things to the last minute because they work well under pressure. Recognize it. Recognize that it's not a healthy way to work, because you're actually creating unnecessary stress and pressure for yourself. And do the steps to make the changes, because you can actually change it. Okay. So does this make sense? Yes? Right. So the rule of three, this is a very useful tool as well. Every day, if choose 3 tasks that will have the biggest impact and focus on those first. So this is a way to learn to start prioritizing your day so that you are not feeling overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed. It simplifies your focus and makes sure that you're progressing in the right direction. Okay, so that's prioritization. The next thing is setting boundaries. And this one is one of my favorites because I was terrible at this for many years. The one thing you need to set boundaries for is distractions. And these days, especially I found since COVID, during COVID, we had to figure out how to survive online and to interact with people online because we weren't allowed to interact in person. And since then, I found that you're so much more available, like emails, social media, your notifications on your phone. How many times do you catch yourself where you're trying to accomplish something and your phone's WhatsApp notifications are popping up all the time, or your emails are popping up and you just like, oh, that person's just replied to my email, I have to go and check. So what are you doing? You're taking your focus off of what you're doing, going to check your email, and then you're coming back, and it takes you like 20 minutes or so to get back into the flow of doing something when you working on an intense project or creating something. So start paying attention to the distractions and learn to switch them off. The emails can wait. If you've got something to work on, put your phone upside down so that you can't see the messages coming through and the notifications, and learn to just manage distractions better. Then a way to help with this is to create focus blocks of time. So you create dedicated slots of time to work without interruptions. Say you mark off half an hour or so off in your calendar, and then you put your phone where it's not going to distract you. Even, you don't have to take all the calls all the time. You don't have to be there. A phone with phone calls is like having a crying baby waiting for food. If you don't have a receptionist or someone answering your calls, you know what? Your phone is recording who's calling you, and you can phone them back when you're done. You need to focus on getting your task done that you've set out to do without interruption. Turn off your phone notifications, close your emails, work without distraction, and see what a difference it makes, because suddenly your productivity increases, and happy days, you actually get the job done in a shorter space of time. And then once your dedicated half an hour or whatever time slot you decide on is over, then go and check your emails and your notifications, and then allocate another block of time. So that's another way to do it. The 90-30 rule, they say that this works very well with your brain's rhythm, resting rhythm and focus rhythm. So you work in a 90 period of focused session, so 1.5 hours, you sit and you work, and then you take a 30-minute break. So your brain can focus for 90 minutes maximum, and then it starts getting tired and your productivity slows down quite a bit. By just getting up away from your desk, going and making a cup of coffee, going and breathing some fresh air outside and feeling the grass between your toes for a few minutes, that can reset your whole brain and your focus and your energy levels so nicely, and your stress. It helps you cope with the stress. So by doing this, you're maintaining peak performance without getting burnt out and overstressed. NLP technique. So I wanted to mention this because I am an NLP practitioner, and we use anchoring techniques to create mental cues. So basically, what we can help you with, if you are struggling with focus, some people do struggle with focus quite a bit, is you can create an anchor, which is like a trigger. So it can be a noise or a certain chair that you sit in that tells your brain, okay, this is work mode now. Like your phone and your computer can go from personal focus to work focus. These technology are also clever. They got the idea from our brain, because our brain can be triggered into work mode by some simple thing that you're doing every day. And as NLP practitioners, we can actually help you to identify these anchors and to create it, so that when you are struggling to focus, you can actually fire it yourself and tell your brain, hey, it's work time now. Okay, so before we go on to practical time management tools, I just wanted to also mention one thing with creating boundaries. And this is particularly when you're working for, in a work environment for a company, maybe a corporate, even if it's a small company and you're working as a team. Setting boundaries with distractions is one thing, but setting boundaries with your colleagues is another. Learn to say no if you're not able to help. And you can do it with kindness and with empathy and understanding. And often when you say no and you say to them, I'm not able to help you right now, but this is how I can help you. Maybe you can help them tomorrow rather than today. Or maybe you can refer them to some materials that they can go and read up to figure out how they can do what they've been asking you to help them with. So you can politely say, no, you're not able to help them. Set that boundary in place, because by helping them, you're actually creating a bigger problem. And to be honest, they should also be a bit smarter about asking for help. They should be asking for help before it becomes a crisis on their side. So it's a bit of a careful balance, but it is very important when it comes to managing time, managing stress, and managing expectations with people that work with you. Right, so let's move on to some tools, time management tools. And a sip of water. It's nice and warm here in Cape Town today. Okay, so the first is the Pomodoro technique, and this is something that I really enjoy because, again, it comes back to your brain and the ability to focus at any given point in time. Now, the Pomodoro technique works for the 25 minutes, whereas the 90-30 technique works for a period of 90 minutes with a 30-minute break. What you need to do is you need to figure out what works for you. Everybody's brain works differently. Everybody responds differently to different techniques. Okay, so for me, I can sit for 90 minutes and focus. I've got the problem where I can sit for 3 hours and focus, and then by the end of that, I've drained myself and I haven't realized I haven't gone to eat food or I haven't had a sip of water. So you actually creating health problems and things like that by doing that. Other people struggle on the other spectrum where they struggle to focus for 20 minutes, because they get distracted very easily. So you need to look at your own situation and how your brain works and figure out a technique that works for you. So if you are a person that procrastinates a lot or struggles to focus for a longer period of time, use the Pomodoro technique, because that's 25 minutes. 25 minutes goes quicker than you think. 25 minutes, you focus, You allocate something to do and accomplish in that 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. But when you take that 5-minute break, get up off your chair. Don't just sit scrolling your phone while you're in your chair still. Get up off that chair. Go make yourself a cup of coffee. Go and see what the weather's like outside and breathe in some fresh air. Then come back to your desk for the next 25 minutes. And as you get used to, creating a habit of this type of cycle, you'll find that you'll become more productive, and you'll start learning to focus for those 25-minute cycles. So after you've done 4 cycles, which would be 2 hours, then you take a bit of a longer break. Okay, then time blocking. So time blocking works well for prioritization, and you can actually use your Pomodoro technique or your 90-30 technique together with time blocking. So whereas the Pomodoro and the 90-30 technique is about setting aside specific measures of time where you're telling yourself to focus. With the time blocking, you're taking your actual tasks that you need to do and you allocating them in your calendar at a specific time. So I do this. I actually just use my Google Calendar to do this. So every week I have a look and I allocate half an hour every day for personal development. So during that time, I'm sitting and I'm listening to audiobooks or podcasts, or reading or learning something new, because I want to learn and I want to improve every single day. So what I do, I've taken my calendar and I've actually blocked it off. That's time blocking. Then I sit and I allocate time on my schedule where I put my content together for my social media for the week. And I set blocks of time every day where I'm putting my content together for my coaching programs, where I'm following up with potential clients. So this is what time blocking does. You look at your to-do list, your things that you need to accomplish. You've got blocks of time allocated on your calendar, and then you slot that task into that time. And what you'll do over and above that is you'll go back to your top 3 for the day, and you'll allocate those top 3 into your time blocks. Okay, so does this make sense? Your top 3 means you figuring out what's the most important tasks that need to be accomplished for today. Your Pomodoro and your 90-30 are your 2 time frames, which I would do one or the other. Or I would do maybe a 90-30 in the morning where your concentration is better, and the 25-minute blocks in the Pomodoro in the afternoon where if you find you struggle to concentrate in the afternoons. Okay. Right, so let's move on. Digital tools. In this day and age, we have so many digital tools to help us with time management. These are 2 that I use and that I recommend. And you can get free versions of them. I use the free version of Asana. So as a project manager for conferencing and events, I could create a project, like each of my conferences and events was an individual project, and then I could create tasks within it, and you can attach your files and you can delegate. So if you've got people working in a team with you, you can actually add them to the task, you can set deadlines, and you can pull reports on the free version of Asana. And for me, it was just such a helpful tool to use to get nicely organized. And then Rescue Time, what Rescue Time does is there is a free version of it and there's a paid version, but I don't use the paid version. But what it does is it runs in the background on your computer and it's monitoring what you're doing. So for me, it keeps telling me that I'm trying to do too many things, that I'm getting distracted because I've got so many tabs open on my computer and I keep jumping from one thing to the other. So the reason why I find it useful is because it's actually creating an awareness that I'm trying to do too many things at once. And when you start being more focused and less distractive, you're actually more productive and you can accomplish things in a shorter space of time. So that's why I use Rescue Time and Asana, two tools that have helped me a lot. Okay, so a practical tip as well. At the end of the day, review your progress. Have a look. What was your plan for your time for the day? Did you complete those top 3 important tasks? If not, why? Always look at the why. You know, it's fine. It's okay if you have missed a deadline. Yes, it seems and it can seem like the end of the world, but if you start managing your time right and you start being smart about it, you will not be leaving things to the last minute anymore. You will start pacing them out better. So if you do miss your own internal deadline, it's not a train smash. You can actually regroup, reassess, figure out what happened that you weren't able to make that deadline, and then create a new realistic timeline for it. So one of the things that I did wrong for quite a while was I underestimated how long it took for things to complete a task, and then I'd allocate too many things in a day. So that's something that you'll become aware of once you start assessing what you've accomplished against what you set out to do that day. Okay, so creating balance in your schedule. Why is balance important? Because actually, time management is not just about work. So this is where I failed miserably, because I was so organized with my work, and I had to be because it was such a high-pressured environment. But my family and my personal life just went on the back burner. I learned the hard way that you need to actually create balance for everything: your work, your family, rest and relaxation, your relationships with other people, self-care, looking after yourself. Do you actually take the time to get your hair done, or just do something that you enjoy doing? And hobbies. It's important to have hobbies, and things that actually inspire you and make you excited and stimulate your creativity. I find a lot of time in work these days, we've got to be so analytical, and we work under so much pressure that we lose our creativity. And it's such an essential part of being a human being. So that's why hobbies are so important. So if you take your calendar, and I do this, I have all my personal things that I need to accomplish in a day, and my blocks of time for my work with my tasks allocated in my actual Google Calendar, so that I can learn to be more disciplined. I mean, it gives you a little notification and says, hey, in 10 minutes, you're going to start to do this. And I can become more disciplined about allocating my time and also looking after myself. Because if you don't look after yourself and manage your stress levels and your health and do those self-care and hobbies, etc., you're not going to be in a position to be the best version of yourself. You're not going to enjoy life, and it's going to affect your family, your kids, etc., etc. Okay. So another thing that is very useful, and we're going to be sending out a time audit worksheet to everybody. So doing a time audit is very, very interesting, because what comes out of this is that you'll discover that you're doing you're spending a lot more time doing things than you realize. I don't know if you've ever gotten onto your phone and you start scrolling through social media and suddenly half an hour has passed and you've done nothing except scroll through these posts or watch cat videos or something, you know. And then when you start, you know, if you know you've got a time problem and you don't have enough hours in a day, which actually you do have enough hours in a day because everybody's got the same amount of time. It's what you're doing with it. What you need to do is actually have a good hard look at how you're spending your time. So a time audit is very, very useful. It's going to show you what you're doing, and you can then learn from the data so that you can make adjustments. I mean, some things are very important and you need to spend more time on them. Some things you should just stop doing altogether because it's just a complete waste of time. And then there's also other things that people around you could be helping with that you don't physically have to do yourself. You know, you could be delegating it, you could be assigning tasks to your family, or going to your family and saying, hey guys, I've got a serious problem with my time, and it really would help if we all took turns cooking dinner, and see what they say. You never know. You know, in our house, we have 4 sons and a daughter. And when they were all living in the house, which was until about a year ago, then we had a schedule and everybody took turns doing dinner, cooking dinner. And what it did was it helped them to learn basic skills like cooking, and taking responsibility, and it took some pressure off of me as the mum. And it's amazing, you know, as a family unit, you're actually a team, and you're the most important team in your life, you know, and you're here to make the house work together. So have a look at how you're spending your time, see if there's areas that other people can help you, that you can involve other people. You can maybe use it as a training opportunity to skill them, upskill them. Yeah, but a time audit will help uncover and expose all those areas. Okay. Right. So, practical tip. Schedule downtime and personal activities. Okay, so I've already covered this. Then also, what I found was before COVID, we were spending a lot of time in meetings. This is just an example that if you are spending too much time in meetings at work, try to set a limit on the time that you spend in meetings. Because if you set a 15 or 30-minute meeting, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that that conversation in the meeting is focused on what you're trying to achieve, rather than having the frilly weather conversation, you know, and talking about things that don't really matter. And that's going to help you, and it's going to help the other people in the meeting as well. If you need a longer discussion, then you can reschedule a second meeting or something like that. But start out with shorter meetings. Okay, so how can you boost your productivity and reduce your stress at the same time? Seems almost counterintuitive, but it's not. It's not about doing more, it's about working smarter. So you got to change your mindset about it. And the one thing is to actually start single tasking. Multitasking is sometimes seen as a superpower, but it actually is not, because your brain does not work well with multitasking. And I would strongly suggest that you ditch it. Rather focus on one task at a time. Use some of the techniques that we've discussed this evening so that your productivity, that task, you know, if you use these techniques and you're focusing on it, it will take you a shorter time to accomplish it if you do it right. So rather than multitasking, if you multitask, then what's going to do is it's going to take longer. Okay, so focus on one thing at a time. Switching between tasks reduces productivity by up to 40%. That is a shocking statistic, and people don't realize it. They think they're very smart multitasking, but actually they're not. And you're also more prone to make mistakes because you're not focusing on one thing at a time. Create the flow, complete the task, and then move on. Then another way to boost your productivity and to manage your stress is to bring in mindfulness and stress relief throughout your day. So short mindfulness practices. It doesn't have to be something very long. It's like simple taking deep breaths. I'm a huge believer in breath work. I've had problems with my back in the past where I started breath work, and within a week, my back was actually a lot better just by taking time out, 10 minutes a day of breathing in, mindful breathing. You're actually conscious of your breathing. That's all it was. It was breath work. It's just the most amazing healing process. Try deep breathing, meditations, whatever works for you. Go outside, feel the grass under your toes for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, but it just resets your brain, resets your stress levels and your focus. Then daily planning, review. We've gone through this again, and I'm going to repeat it again. Use a physical or digital planner to plan your day. Use your calendar that you've got, your Google Calendar. You don't need to spend money on it, but revisit. And if you find it's not working, just adjust accordingly, try something new, and keep persisting. This is a simple habit that boosts accountability and keeps you on track. Okay, so in NLP, we use reframing techniques to shift your perception of something. So if you're finding time management is very stressful, try reframing it as an opportunity for greater freedom and more control. So if you make the decision that you're going to view your time management from a different perspective, it can reduce your stress and help you to focus on what matters the most. Okay, so how do you create lasting change? Here's some ideas. Firstly, try some habit stacking. So for instance, if this means that you pair a new habit with something that you already is an existing habit. So if every morning you walk into the office and you make yourself a cup of coffee, that's a habit. It's something that you do every single day. So you're wanting to start to identify your top 3 tasks while you're waiting for that kettle to boil in the kitchen. Jot down your top 3 priorities for that day. So this is habit stacking. That helps you to create a new habit. Accountability. Find yourself accountability buddy. It always helps to do things with someone else. When you're starting an exercise program, they're always suggesting to you to get into the habit of exercise, have an exercise buddy. When you're trying to make change in life, have an accountability buddy. Share with them what you're trying to do with your time management. So if you're going to work on this and you decide to go ahead with it, it's easier if someone else is there by your side going along this path with you. So track your progress. Check on how you've done against what your plan was. Track your wins. Reflect on what worked well, what didn't work well. If it didn't work well, why didn't it work well? Unpack it, study it, learn from it. Make the necessary adjustments. Try again. Persevere. The feedback that you get from this will help you to continuously move in the right direction and to get closer to your goals. So, wrap up what we covered quite a bit. We had to go through it quite fast because it's a lot of work to cover in a very short space of time. So time is a non-renewable. You can't get it back. Once it's gone, it's gone. So what you need to do is to learn to fill it with meaningful activities rather than all the fluff. There are tried and tested techniques and tools that other people have developed that work for them, that can help you use them. You've got access to them. And consistency is key. Don't give up. Keep trying something. Even if it doesn't work out, figure out why it didn't work out. Try again until you do get it right. Okay, then my gift to you. So I've already said I'm going to send you a free time audit worksheet and the slides from this webinar with the link to rewatch the replay so that you can have it forever and rewatch it if you want to. But I am giving away a free copy of my time management blueprint, which is actually the workbook for an 8-week time management program that I've got here, I've created. So this is the hard copy of it. It will be the PDF copy. It is 60 pages long, and it has a whole lot of exercises in here, which I haven't even discussed this evening because we just don't have time to do it, that helps you to figure out exactly what you're spending your time on, how to prioritize, where you can delegate responsibilities, how to be smarter with your time management, etc., etc. How to stay motivated. What are your interruptions? What is your not to-do list? Has anybody here got a not to-do list? It's time to start thinking about that. You know, the things that you're currently doing in your life that you shouldn't be doing. What are those things? Anyway, so for everybody who books a free 30-minute coaching call, I will give you this completely free. It's worth, with coaching sessions, 4,500 Rand. With the full coaching program, the PDF on its own is worth 950 Rand. And I'm also going to be developing an online course for time management using these materials, which I'll be launching a little bit later in the year. So that's my gift. If you want to, you can book a free 30-minute coaching call where we can discuss your priorities. No obligation at all, no cost to you. And you can scan this QR code to get the link to book the time. And then my next webinar in 2 weeks' time is about emotional resilience. Sorry, my controls are all covering the screen here. Emotional resilience in a stressful world, how to stay strong under pressure. So that's in 2 weeks' time on the 17th of October at 7:30 p.m. If you want, you can scan the QR code and register for it now. Invite whoever, anyone, you know, these days, I think it's so important. Stress is huge. Burnout is huge, and burnout is caused by stress and incorrect stress management. And emotional resilience ties into your emotional EQ, and all of this is just so intertwined and so important in modern day life. So if you want to come and learn something about emotional resilience, building emotional resilience in a stressful world, then please join us in 2 weeks' time. Any questions?